Like my senior year, for whatever reason, I just didn't think I needed God anymore. I go, you're not helping me. I would tell them, I was like, you're not helping me with anything. I got a jacked up home. I got jacked up coach.
Welcome everybody to the Savage Server Podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Jason.
Today we have a guest, our buddy Ryan. We're going to discuss some issues about being a savage servant, some of the things that have gone on in his life that have brought him to where he is today with God and within himself. So let's go.
Ryan, why don't you tell us, people that don't know you a little bit about yourself and your family, kind of what you do.
Okay.
Don't give away where we work.
Right. Well, of course, my name is Ryan Rosales. I grew up in the Bay Area, came out here in Sacramento right in '89 when the earthquake hit. But we came out because I was getting in a little bit of trouble where I was from in Daly City. So mom wanted to change, and probably the biggest reason because my father was a horrible alcoholic. So she wanted to change. So we came out of Sacramento. Hated Sacramento. It's hot and couldn't go nowhere. But been out here since. I'm an EMT by trade, and we work together. The one thing is I'm a devout Christian. Been a devout Christian for all my life since I was born. Through my grandparents and my mother before them, and my mother and whatnot. And so Christianity and this walk has been in my life all throughout my life, in a sense. There's times I've walked away and whatnot. So I've had when I read in my life as like I'm like the ones who are kind of born into it, they're the righteous, but it's even harder for them sometimes because what did God want? What did Jesus came here for? He came for the thieves and the people that no one wanted. It's to kind of like battle that line because I didn't want to be like predominantly my family were hood. There's pretty much I don't know how to say it. Cousins, were in gangs and sold drugs, and my younger cousins glorified that, so they loved that, and I didn't. I was the only one. I was the only one that didn't. I'm cool. I don't like we were talking about. I don't drink. Haven't drunk because of that part was because of my father. Yeah. Never got drunk. Never tasted. I tasted stuff, but never to drink even social stuff. So growing up like that, that's how I was. I looked into football. Love football. Probably had an opportunity to leave, and it was taken from me. I had a real bad knee. Blew out my knee my senior year, so that changed my life a lot. Because living with an alcoholic. I don't know if anyone you ever lived with an alcoholic. It's tough. And me being the oldest, I was picked on all the time. So. It stopped when I got big. Because I was a nice kid. I was a fat kid.
You and I have been similar stories.
Yeah, I mean, I was, but my dad was always there. But he was because there's you can say there's so many different types of alcoholics. He was a binge drinker, so he drank and drank until then he'll stop. Then he'll be
for like how long?
Months. He'll go months, a year. Then he'll stop. He'll get and he'd be he'd be there. Then at least you could talk to him. But he's still he's from El Salvador, so I'm half Salvadoranian and half Mexican. So I'm crazy and more fucking crazy. So excuse me, pardon my French. But so he didn't. He led a pretty bad life, pretty hard life. So he didn't know how to raise kids. He raised us the best way he knew, and I know that now as a man. It was tough doing that because I was the oldest, and my brothers came later, and defending my mom against sometimes the stuff that he did. Thank God he wasn't super abusive, but he was very verbally abusive. So God was institutional in a lot of that as I grew up. Being a Pentecostal Christian and a holy roller, especially in a Latin church, it was, God, you felt the presence of God when he entered. And so that it helped me a lot. Him doing the things he would do, like, just fight me for no reason. I've got, he was a culinary chef, so all his knives were like extremely sharp. And he would get drunk and he would want me to take them. And I wasn't, I was there for my mom and my dad, my brothers. And, mind you, I had my brothers when I was 10. So pretty much as in high school, I was like looking over them, being their dad and whatnot. Yeah. And he would just get mad at me, take me to the store. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to contribute to your alcoholism. And he would get irate with me. He's cut me across the lens, cut my neck across my neck, the knife across my neck. And I'm like, just sitting there like, oh, we're going to do this. And it was just like that.
But actually cut you?
Yeah, so he told me to take me, he pulled out a knife, and he goes, take me now. I'm like, nope. And luckily, I thank God that it was only me and him there. And I was just, wow. And him, I think I came home for real quick, and I was going to go back to practice or whatever. And he goes, you need to take me now. I go, nope, I'm not going to take it. And he's like, I go, what are you going to do? Come on, And he lunged at me, and I just went like that, and it came right across my neck. I went, and he looked at it. He was like, you saw the glimpse of, oh, I messed up. Yeah. But he kind of like, when people kind of have to kind of like stay with what they were in, or like kind of like
flow of the moment, already committed.
Yeah, committed to the character in a sense. Almost like he's like, so I snatched it and just got the knife. I go, you need in, and I threw the knife somewhere. I was like, and we had our words, and that was it. And then I was like, I just left. So that's what I had kind of like. He's trying to fight me in front of the neighborhood. We lived in a cul-de-sac. Saturday morning, I don't like your car. Pull out his knife. I'm like, really? And so those like I had so when I blew out my knee, I went to a real deep depression because I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave SAC. I wanted to take it out. Yeah, I was going to take it out. I didn't think I was going to be looked at really. I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. If you've talked to my coach back then, I was 6'1" in the program, and I just love to play. And the funny thing is, I played alongside Ray Caruth.
Really?
I was a junior and he was a senior, so I started on his line. So I at that time my high school was pretty prominent. It was okay for like the year I was there, and my senior year we lost him and that was it. But I wanted to get out, and I had everything had an obstacle. My head coach didn't like me, and he was my line coach. So I'm like, I can't catch a break, and I'm a yes sir, no sir cat. That's how I was when I was a kid. Yes sir, and then like something switched my senior year. Something like I blew out my knee. First, my junior year, I broke my ankle. Playing two-hand touch going to my senior year. And he came in, and he was just, he would, call me fat, call me slow. When I ran a 4.6 40, I was fast, I was big, I was strong, and I broke my ankle, just started lifting weights, got really big up top because I couldn't lift couldn't do no squats. And he walked in with 5 dudes. He's like, these dudes are going to take your position. I put my weight down, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I wasn't a big mouth. I'm not like that. I'm more now. I guess because I'm older, but I wasn't like that. I wasn't like I was a quiet kid.
It was like a tough love type of thing.
I don't know. I I really don't know. I think he just didn't. I beat out his senior. And I demoralized him. Like he couldn't do anything against me, and nobody. And it's just. And I just wanted to play. My dad didn't teach me no sports. I played soccer a little bit, but that's with the friends I had. So my dad didn't do none of those things. Yeah. So my first organized was high school football, organized sport. So going through that, it was tough. Say this. I don't know if you would. I coach now. I don't know if you guys ever coached a sport or whatever. No. So I've been coaching football now in the junior leagues in high school for about 15 years. So he did this to me. So it was my junior year. we were just running a simple dive play. You kind of know what that is, right? It's just simplify. How many yards do you get on a dive play?
Maybe 8.
Yeah, something like that. 5. Sometimes it's just for 2 yards to get the first down.
Yeah.
So I ran the dive play. Cruz was running the ball. I hit the dude, trip, hit the linebacker. Ray gets 7 yards. He pulls me out of the game. So it's expletives, call me fat, slow. He could have ran a touchdown. I go, coach, it's a dive play. I'm like, takes me out of the game. I'm like, everybody's like, why are you out of the game? And so he takes me out of the game. And then it was funny that now it was against the school I sent my kids to, Elk Grove, which was like at that time Elk Grove and Valley were the rivals. So they took me out, and Elk Grove always had great teams.
Oh, they killed
Yeah,
us in high school.
yeah. So they came in, and I was going against their all-star, all-league, all-world D tackle, and I was doing stuff. I was small, but I was smart. I understood how the game was played, especially in my position, what I had to do, and that's how I broke it down. The first play, the dude looks out, and he sees me out on the sideline, and he looks out, and you see him nod his head, and he just smashed the guy he wanted in. They smashed him, smashed the quarterback, and got the running back. And I sat out the whole game. I sat out majority of the first half. Coaches were arguing on the sideline. Ruth walks off. I'm not going back in. Because he's getting hit so much. He goes, I'm not going back in until you put Rosales in. And I was like, I just didn't understand. So those things that would go in, first play, hit a run, I hit the corner, I smashed the end, I hit the linebacker, and he's off to the races for a touchdown. So those are things I would go all the time against, like stuff like that. Stuff I don't know why, I didn't do anything bad. I didn't be mean to nobody. It's just those things I would always run into each facet of my life.
You just felt like there was more challenges.
Yeah. And, I always had to come back. Like my senior year, for whatever reason, I just didn't think I needed God anymore. I go, you're not helping me. I would tell him, I was like, you're not helping me with anything. I got a jacked up home. I got jacked up coach. And as a teenager, your life seems like it's going to end and whatever.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. I stopped praying. I stopped doing stuff. And I put everything into football. Everything. I lifted weights. I, tried to do everything. Everything I could, I knew how. Because I tell my kids, you don't have no idea what I would have done with a dad like me back then. I didn't know how to lose. I was still big, overweight, but I was still fast and whatever. And I go, when if I would have leaned out? I probably could have ran the ball. I would love to run the ball, but I just, didn't. It just wasn't meant for me. And I went, I started the season. We had these clubs, 1,000-pound, 1,500 pound. We at that time we first started, it was 1,000 pounds. I shattered that by, 300-400 pounds. I was benching 315, squatting 495, coming off a broken ankle, deadlifting 495, cleaning 225, and I was just ready to go, ready to do. And I was getting the looks. I was getting looks by Arizona. At one game we played in Arizona. Coach, scout came to talk to me a little bit. Stanford coach came to talk to me a different time, and I was like, "Juice!" I'm like, "For real, me?" I'm like, "Me?" I'm like, whatever." And just started getting, and I wasn't into my head because I really wasn't like that. I wasn't like the cats you see that get all their head blow up. I was trying to do school, and school was hard because I read into that as being dyslexic and having a processing disorder. School came extremely hard for me. I had to read things 4, 5, 6 times just to get them, and so I just wanted to get out. And sure enough, and as third to last game, and third to last game, and came around the corner, hit a block, and got another block, and was waiting for the running back to keep going, and got hit, and my leg stayed still, and you hear pop, 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 pop all the way down, and that was it. Done. And that's where the depression hit in. I was like, I can't. And they were like, oh yeah, you come back and got surgery. You can't play no more. And I was like, what? Like you said, if I get the surgery, I can play. Because I was like, okay, I'll just go to junior college and whatever. No. And then
Who said that?
the doctor and then the docs. He said, I think she shouldn't play no more. I'm not going to release you. I'm like, so he just went, you know, and it's kind of good, you know, went to the, and that got me more mad at God and just doing those things, you know, just trying to, you know, even though I still didn't go off, I didn't go drink, I didn't do nothing. I just kind of, all right, man, let's just do my life and just kind of internalized a lot of it, you know, and then I met in a couple of years, but see, I grew up fast. So I grew up in the hood. So where we work at, everybody knows Southside Kuwait or whatever, I call it the Wild Wild West. Yeah. So by the time I was coming out of high school, I had been shot at a couple times, you know, almost got, you know, stabbed a couple times. And now that even the group of guys that I hung around with, we didn't go find trouble. They just found you because we don't like how the way you look, or I'm like, okay, this is what it is. So
kind of just by proximity,
where you're at.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's, you know, the strong do survive. You know, because you know it's tough because, you know, you walk down the street, mind your own business, and someone wants to, you know, mess with you just because there's three of them and one of you. You know, just they want to take what you got because they think they can or they want to. You know.
Let me ask you a question. So when you say you got to the point where you felt like you kind of gave up on God, he just turned his back towards you, but you didn't go to like the drugs, the alcohol, the gangs, the getting in trouble. So not doing that, do you feel like just because you felt mentally you had given up on God, but inside you know you really couldn't? Because that just seems like that's just a path that people would take when they're like giving up on God, you know, go dance with the devil. That's what they do, but you still didn't. Yeah,
I think a lot of it had to do with your moral compass. Yeah. And where mine was at, I couldn't, I had all the opportunities. My cousins, I thank God for them as I pray, you know, because they showed me something else. You know, they whipped my ass, and they're the older cousins that I adored them. Yeah. Because they're my older cousins. They're kind of like my big brothers. You know, my cousin Anthony and cousin Junior. But they kicked it hard. Like I remember going over to their house, and which was eventually would turn into my old house. You know, the counter was full of booze and 3 kegs in the back and cats in the back just passing blunts around. So I had the opportunity. Yeah. You know, I could have took it, but I think the only thing it was the fear of turning into my father. Yeah. The fear of where will my brothers go? What would happen to my brother? My mom was there. My mom did everything. She worked. My mom wasn't like a typical. I always say that I'm not typical Mexican. Like, you hear that? I think I coined that. I go because she wasn't. She went to school. You know, coming out as a high schooler. She went to school. You know, a Bible school. But she was always driven to work. Yeah. She wasn't like the typical Hispanic female that would stay home and cook. God bless my mother. She doesn't cook. And, she just knows how to make, I always say white food. So it was just, sandwiches and soups and stuff like that. I guess that's where my father, he's a culinary chef. So, I didn't even eat Mexican food for, decades. Really? Because my dad cooked everything else. I'm why can't we have regular food? I want to have a enchilada or something. It would be, London broils, filet mignon.
So you're complaining about getting a 5-star meal.
Yeah.
When all you wanted was mac and cheese.
Yeah. Right.
No, he wanted rice and beans.
Right, rice and beans. So I come out here and I would have certain things. Like my grandmother was our staple. She was our matriarch. God bless her soul. She was the one the true epitome of a Hispanic woman. Feared God, and we're just, other than being Catholic, she was Christian. She was Catholic, I guess, very long time in her youth. Mm-hmm. And when my grandparents came in, they I guess evangelists came into their town and converted them and trained them. And that's where my Christianity came from. She was especially the matriarch with both the family and I guess the religious or the faith-based aspect. She cooked. I love going over. Till the day she died, I was there by her side. So my grandfather to pick up what we got. It's just sad that you see those matriarchs leave a family and it kind of fractures a little bit, and it was tough because there was really no one that could replace her. Yeah. So I said, but like the true, authentic Hispanic food, no.
I grew up with that. That's how I got fat.
Right. See, I was always fat because my dad fed me.
I was getting.
I said, you got that, I got everything else.
Like you're getting all the stuff that I wanted, and you're like, here's some menudo and tripe.
Right.
I'm like, bleh. But then homemade tamales and
Yeah, so she
chorizo and eggs. And
right. See, that's my grandmother.
that stuff.
But then my grandmother, like, so I think around, I want to say when I was like, I was 10 when I came. I was 14 when I came. So around 10, 8 or 9, all my family moved from San Francisco to move up here to Sacramento. So we were the last ones to leave to come to Sacramento. So I missed that. So when we come out for summers, that was my jam. But like for a long time when I was a kid, both my parents worked. So I was sent to, and this is the glory of God. Is sometimes I was babysat by our pastor's wife. And they have a humongous church down in San Francisco. It's probably one of the biggest Latin churches still to this day. Temple of Fe, it's Temple of Faith, with the Pastor Irizaris. So it was, she loved me, and she had, and I don't know if it was a glimpse of what I was in. She had like 7 boys and 1 girl, and she just just fed me. What do you want? Fed this. And she's Cuban, so they fed me even more. I'm like,
you can't say no.
I was like, it's rude, extremely rude.
You cannot. If you
No.
go to a Hispanic or an Italian home.
Yeah. No, you have to eat.
You have here, eat this. Okay.
Okay, and if you're full, you're like, oh, you look like you want more. Yes.
Making you a plate ticket.
Yeah. Yes. So and that's why I love like some certain cultures that mimic how the Hispanic culture is, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's sad how this world has come to in a sense, but that's where I grew up with. And as I grew up fast, I just wanted to, in a sense, be married and have my family. I guess at 20 years old, and I'm, my ex now, who's my ex-wife, and didn't see a lot of red flags, of course, because our first role models are her parents, and my parents didn't have a great marriage. Instinctually, I didn't turn out to be like my dad. I turned out to be my mom, and my mom, she took a lot from my dad. So I took a lot from my ex, and I did, like I said, I guess why I take part in a lot of the savage servant part of this podcast, and what you're trying to do is that, in that, it was bleak. I came back to Christ, and
What brought you to come back?
I guess just my family, my brothers. It was time for me to. I woke up and I had to take care of them, because my dad was just still bad. He's talking about I couldn't bring people home. Yeah. Like he'll go from the living room, and like he wasn't like drunk. He'd like stay on the bed, stay on the couch, defecating, urinating on himself. That's how bad my house was. Mm-hmm. My mom would clean up, and that's how it was. So I didn't bring no one home. But my first inclination was always my brothers. Yeah. Let's get out. If I peep in and let's go do something. Let's get out of here. And as I learned later why I didn't leave, it was because of them. God kind of told me, like, I didn't want you to leave. What will happen to your brothers? Yeah. And it's that audible voice, but that comes in thinking those processes happening.
You felt responsible.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I guess that's where the first part of my fathering lessons started coming in. It was tough. It was hard, and I got in. I didn't see. I wasn't taught how to talk to females. I wasn't a ladies' man in high school. I had one girlfriend. I talked to another one. That's about it. I didn't. And I thank God for my best friend, who to this day, since high school, I have 2 of them. Well, one of them, Ricky. He was the ladies' man. And he goes, no, you gotta do this, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch that. This kind of, he goes, and and he helped me a lot in that. But like even then, he was just like, but I did everything in my marriage. I try to be the devoted husband and try to take care of him. And she just wasn't that. She just wasn't that wife. She was young, we're young and dumb, and I did everything savagely possible.
So you think that because out of fear of becoming your dad, you kind of overcompensated and became like almost the example that you had in your mom?
Yeah,
and you just took that.
Yeah, I kind of took that because I wanted to be. My dad was extremely smart and whatnot. It's just like you saw the battles. You know, he would call her stupid. He would call her dumb. You know, I think coming up now later, and I see when now that he passed, and seeing some of the stuff that she does and whatnot, I kind of understood it a little bit. My mom was kind of like an eccentric and in certain things and spending and whatnot. I kind of understood, but you know, that was his way of saying it, and I did overcompensate probably. I respected women because I respected my mom, and going into my marriage, I mean, it was infidelity, not by me, more than once. And the first time I gave it to God, and we met in church. You know, I was trying to find a church at the time. I was young. I didn't go back to my church because my church was at the time was the largest in Sacramento. It was down in the hood by Martin Luther King and 47th Street, and it was just, you know, kind of like, I don't want to go back to that. I did, and I don't know. I just wanted to find something, you know, as most men do. As young kids, I want to go find something on my own. Yeah. You know, I was going into other churches and whatnot. And so I met her through some friends and whatnot, and I go, okay, great. We can establish that at least our foundation we were Christ. And you know, as we grew up and trying to, you know, we had a kid young, super young, and just trying to live life in a sense, trying to put God first and whatnot. But it was tough by her. She came from a very tough background, you know, a lot of bad things and stuff like that. So it was tough for me because I just wanted a devoted wife. You know, I went to school. I was going to school full time. Had 3 jobs. You know, trying to be a nurse. So just give me 3 years. Give me 3 years and I'll be done. Just couldn't do that. And, you know, so it was tough, man. You know, it was tough. And she, you know, she went her way and I went mine. And I was done though. But I was done after the second time I go. The first time I go, it's God's decision if we stay together or not. Because it's different when when it's your girlfriend. You know, everybody says, I could just bounce. I go, it's different when she's your wife. And she has your kids, and you're like, I look at my kids, and I did a lot of it for my kids.
How many kids did you have with her?
I had 3.
Because you have what, 32 now, right?
Yeah, it's close to that. Yeah. It's divided and add. Yeah, I have 8 altogether.
They burn.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, but like that was, you know, now that I have 8 now and 4 for my current wife, that, you know, learning those things, you know, those are things that, you know, trying to be that devoted person, trying to be, I like the kids can stay with her. I mean,
three kids and a wife to like just by itself is already a big thing.
Yeah, it is. It's already, like I hear people talking like, I can't do it. There's kids. I'm like, whatever, bro.
You're like, I have 8.
Play that.
8
I had 3 this morning, bro. I had 3. Give me a break.
Dude, I just graduated college this afternoon, and I got 2 birthdays.
Yeah, right. So it's you know, those little things, but like,
that's crazy.
But like,
so many kids.
And we were devout and Christian. Like I was a Royal Ranger. I went off with, you know, we kind of, as God led us. God led us to certain, you know, I've known a lot of people. So as in that whole journey with her as we grew, we were devout. You know, I went back to my mother's church, which is our I would say our home church, and back at, you know, my Latin church, and that's what I knew. That's what I understand. It's a holy road. We sing, we praise, we dance, we run around, the Holy Ghost, everything. So that's just what I know church was. Like every other church was kind of like slow and boring, like Catholic church. It's very monotone, every church was like that to me.
Did you ever go to a Catholic church
Yeah.
with your family? Yeah.
Very guilt-driven.
Not with my family, with friends, like I went with friends, and later on, as in between, I had another relationship that she was Catholic, and that's where I knew as an adult, like, okay, this ain't gonna work. This. You know, I would be with somebody who thought, but you know, they would have to see. I never wanted to convert nobody. I do, but I don't enforce. I go, see how I see God. If you can see how I see God and feel God how I feel God, then God will speak to you. That's how I always, in everybody's life, no matter what. But with my first marriage, actually, all the stuff I did to save that marriage and do the things that I savagely like, no, you're not taking my kids. Sorry, you're not doing. You can't do this. You can barely live on your own. You want to do this. You want to go back. You're having a midlife crisis. Whatever. I say all this, like, God has always been there. God has, and I was working. I did my thing. I mean, it was bad. Like my sons saw a lot of stuff, bad stuff with her, because she went off the deep end, like drugs, alcohol, and all that stuff. Well, I didn't. I was like, I gotta work. I gotta take care of my kids.
What do you think you learned through all that?
Through that, like my.
Because I mean, that's got to be just.
Oh, dude, I read Job.
Yeah.
Job, if you read the book of Job, that was my book, because I didn't understand, and I never cursed God. And then I was just trial after trial. I go, okay, she wants to do this. She was doing, like, her infidelity was along with my best friend at the time.
Dude.
Like, it was hard. Like, anything you can say and do. Like, I got mad with my other best friend, my long time, because he had went over the house to come see me one time, and his stuff wasn't right. Like, I guess he caught her, but he didn't say nothing to me, and I was mad at him for a long time. Like, why don't you just say it? Like, I'm straight. Like, if I see I'm straight, that's the type of friend I am.
There's no black and white.
There's none. I'm like, if I see your girl doing stuff, I'm like, click. I go, this is happening right now, bro.
Yeah.
I go, you can be mad at me or not. And as we were friends, you can be mad at me or not. I go, but at least I know I told you. Yeah. And then you can never say anything. You can come back. You can be like, you can be delusional if you want. Like, that can't be her. I'm like, okay, that's fine. This is what it is, because I'm not gonna be like, whatever. I'm not like, that's my boy, and that's how I want. That's my bro code. Like, you don't mess with.
I never
like,
understood that. I don't understand the dilemma people have with that.
Me neither.
I mean, because you see people though that will tell somebody that somebody's cheating on them, and a lot of times it ends up they're mad at the person that told them, not the person that's cheating on them. Or even you'll see people, like, their significant other will cheat on them with a friend, and they'll break up with the significant other, but then still be friends with the person. Like, I don't understand where...
It's an emotional disconnect, because you're tied to both, and one is obviously stronger than the other.
Right.
So in that moment of being shocked by everything going on, it's just, you're choosing a side, because that person, your person, you've already put on a pedestal, and your friend is probably over here, so you're over here, chopping away at him, instead of being like, well, that obviously it couldn't be her or him.
It's so weird. And I don't, and the not being able to tell somebody, that's such a weird thing. Like, I would think, like, because it can't be a loyalty thing. You think you're going to lose that person? Like, I don't know.
I think it's because you don't want to inflict that kind of pain on them, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Man,
maybe like, you don't want to be the one to drive that sword through their heart,
I mean, it is, regardless. I've been at both ends. I've been at one end, I guess. Like I say, it's crushing.
Yeah.
It's crushing to me. And like I tell my boys, these are, until they become your wife, they're just females. They're like females like buses, or like fish in the sea. There's buses. Another one come around in 5 minutes. There'll be another one. There's plenty of fish in the sea that you can go. There I go. But when it's your wife, like, I have one son that got married. I go, this is it, man. This is the time that you have to. We had our discussions about being, so young. I go, you're young. You're only a year older than I was before I got married. I go, the only difference that he had was he didn't have a kid, which is great. Live your life then. But you got to understand what you're walking into.
How do you balance that with your boys then? Because I know, obviously, with everything that's happened to you, right? Like, you kind of try to teach them to keep their guard up a little bit. But how do you balance that with respecting women? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If she's only a female in that regard, like, how does that?
Yeah, I tell them to, like, my wife is, love her to death. Love you, Charlotte. She is the baddest. She's the baddest. She's the one. She was like, everybody probably, oh, that's the one I want to get. That's, as in how she was and how she can, and you guys had spoken about something previous, and another thing about knowing people and knowing how how to sense something.
Yeah.
And it's called the spirit of discernment. I have it. When I'm at my heightness, when I'm fasting, I have it. I could talk to somebody for 2 minutes. I know what kind of person that person is. She has that all the time. She can talk to them. Yeah, you gotta watch that. And a lot of our boys don't have that. I think like maybe one does. I go, but in trying to fight that, I go, you have to see the red flags. You have to kind of see how they are, see how they act. I go, kind of test them. I tell them not to speak to them. You never hit a broad. Never hit a girl. You don't put your hands on them. You push them away. You walk away, because there's no coming back from that. Mm-hmm. You just have to talk to them and understand what they're doing and figure it out. Don't be blind to the fact of thinking with the wrong head. And they do. They kind of have to be like, okay, and whatnot. I tell them, look, man, you gotta watch how it is. I tell them there's always going to be those type of females. There's always going to be some hoes out there. There's always going to be something, but you have to kind of like be right with yourself in a sense. Talking, like I have 3 kids that have autism. My eldest, my second oldest, and one of my middle ones. And it's tough because their social connect sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like 2 of them, because my eldest I raised him, so he's very black and white. He doesn't talk very much. It's very one-sided conversations. He's like, okay, no, and it drives my wife crazy. It drives both of us crazy now as we're older.
Yeah.
But those social connects where my other 2, they'll talk to females and have a couple females, but you see where the autism kind of plays out is that some of their relationships are not substantial. Mm-hmm. So I go, you have to kind of like talk to them. You have to understand see what they do, see what they say. If they want you to go here, go there, you have to watch. I go, this is why you're young. You date. There's some things that, we've all dated many women before. You'll find things you like and don't like. Yeah. And I try to teach them that. I go, that's what it is. I go have fun. I didn't do none of them. I did dating when I was a junior. I tried, but nobody wants the fat kid. This is what it is. I wish I go like, it's funny that I go, but regardless of that, I go, kids are cruel.
They are.
And you can have a mouthpiece unless you have money. Cause I knew one kid that was, he was heavyweight, he was like that, but for whatever reason, he had money. He had the latest kicks, he had latest outfits and stuff like that. So those girls are always there. Yeah. They're like, oh, what can I get from him?
Well, that's not the ones, right? That's not the ones you
really want. But the attention is still the attention. It's still the attention.
Yeah, as a young man, it's hard to discern.
Yeah.
From they're hungry for attention in general.
Yeah.
So any attention
is good attention.
Yeah.
Don't go down. So like I tell them, I go, but first and foremost with all my boys, you got to pray. You got to be in your word. I know it's hard, but you have to. If this is someone that you want, you have to ask God. So after my first wife, and I was like, I'm cool. I'm never getting married again. Yeah. I'm never getting married again. And if you see my family picture, you would understand why. So those things that you have to, that's for something for you to watch, because that's something I don't like to divulge too much. But I didn't want to deal with no other female like that. I don't want to go through infidelity like that. And so I would date and whatnot and here and there. So, but I always wanted to upgrade. She was down here. So I'm gonna look for an educated broad. But I would never bring them around. One stuck around. One, she was a nurse and she was really, really smart. And I dug that about women. I like very intelligent women who came from the streets, kind of had that hood and common sense, and both. You're smart and you have good common sense, and you're hood smart.
Somebody that found their way out?
Yeah, in a sense.
Okay. Well, it gives you something to relate to.
Yeah. So, because I wasn't the smartest kid. I'm not, until when I came to high school and I was trying to be a nurse, and first I was trying to be a doctor, then that didn't pan out because my wife didn't want to be my wife no more, and I had no one to take care of my kids, so I'd be a PA, then no one could take care of my kids. I couldn't go to clinical. I couldn't do none of that stuff. So I was like, well, whatever. So, but in doing that, because I centered everything around my kids. Like my dad didn't center anything. He just went to work and whatnot. You know, so I centered everything around my kids. You know, so I'm like, whatever. It is what it is. God has me here for a reason. I didn't get to do those like some things you're mad about. Those are things I'm like I get mad about.
Like you regret.
Yeah, my regret. I didn't get to go to school. I didn't get to be. I struggled. Not to say I struggled hard. I always had a roof over my head. I'm not skinny, so I'm not without.
Somebody's feeding you.
Right? So, you know, those are things I like, man, I wish I had my education. Because, you know, education is a key, even though now in this day and age of .com type stuff, but education is still a key. It just helps you, the social interactions of going to school with the higher people of higher education is just different for some people, you know. So those are things probably the only things I regret, you know. But going through all that, I was like, I'm trying to find me someone smarter, someone I can elevate to. Because I I was told a long time ago by one of my pastors, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's one thing I told my kids almost every day. You're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So sit and think. I go, I don't know who I see some of the people you hang around with, but just think about that. And he goes, so, you know.
You're like, I hope the other 2 are really, really high.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough. Like, so that's why I started implementing myself. Okay, I'm a fire. I go to church, and I got deeply involved in church. And I became. Did you go to Christian church at all, or just recently with Life Points?
So when I was younger, my grandparents, they went to a Christian church.
Okay.
And that was the only church that I went to regularly with anyone. My dad, he's Catholic-ish, like during like Christmas, Easter time.
Yeah.
Like that's
CEOs.
Yeah, so that's it, man. And so those were like Catholic ones, and then I got baptized Catholic when I was a baby.
Right. Yeah, that's
and never like my parents never did my first communion stuff.
So they weren't practicing.
Yeah, my brother and sister, they did their first communion. My parents were married through the Catholic Church.
That's big.
But then when they split up, they never got it like I guess there's a special.
Yeah, you had to do something.
The Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And so then my dad and my stepmom couldn't get married through the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
But they don't really go a ton. Like we had conversations about God, but only if I brought it up. But I mean, like the values were all there.
Yeah.
I just the practice.
That doesn't change. Yeah.
We didn't go to Christian church, but my grandparents, they went to Christian church, and when I was younger, it was just my grandma. But I would go with her, and I just noticed the difference in like I could understand it better.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Why I went back and now I got kids. I have to devote their lives to this, and we like in Christianity, you don't see the kids get presented. They decide if they want to get baptized if they're not. So when I got in, I started helping with sound. I was telling him I did sound for the church, for all my churches that I was doing it, and then I got with a group and I helped them do. I was their sound guy as they traveled and whatnot, and I instituted myself as a youth leader. I was a youth leader there at my church. Then became a Royal Ranger. So Royal Rangers is a Christian Boy Scouts.
Oh,
now, I don't see
too.
Yeah, so a lot of them they don't do them no more, but there's only in certain sections they still do. So a gentleman that was in the Boy Scouts back in 1950s or 60s, he got saved, and he was one of the head Boy Scout, leaders or whatever, and he created this. So I got into that. I mean, really got into that. Started my kids and whatnot. And I became what they call him a commander or the troop leader. But like I did all that. So, totally just divulging my life because that's what it is. That's what pretty much you do. You help. You govern in some way to help somebody, and all through that, that's where I guess I don't want to say the big fall or whatever, but where I kind of took myself back was that throughout that whole time, my first wife was cheating on me, and she was on the worship team, and she was right there next to me, and so those are tough. That was the tough part of putting God first when you really didn't want to.
That
And that was like,
You felt like you were doing everything right.
right. I go, why? You question. I just asked why, and like I said, the Book of Job really, really helped me in a sense of guiding me through this whole thing, and institutionally, because it was my best friend and I knew his family and I was really close to his family. I walked away. It was God. God has been in my life institutional wise very much because I was mad, like mad.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And when you say about, asking God, like, or leaving it up to God, whether or not He wants you to stay in somebody's life or wants that person in your life.
Yeah.
In the relationship I am now, it's the first time I've ever done that. Because when I was a kid, very much like you, I had the pivotal moment, excuse me, of when my dad, just like you, he drank every single day. And he was a very high functioning alcoholic, and he would yell, scream, throw stuff, threaten me. I remember being 8 years old. I fought my dad 3 times. Like, he would try to choke me out once. Like, it was bad. Like, and this started at the age of 12 that started. But at that point, I turned away from God because I remember crying in my room, asking him, like, please save me. Don't let this happen to my mom. My mom's crying. I can hear it. He's just yelling at her in the other room. And I'm like, why aren't you coming?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing anything? Help me, save me. And he just let it happen. He'd let me get beat up again, or he'd let me get hit with the belt again, or he'd let me, something else happen.
Right.
Just like you, fat kid. But I wasn't as, athletically inclined as you were to have, football and all that stuff, but it made me shy away from it. And then when I came back to it, finally, this is the first time where I've asked a number of times, like, God, should I continue to be in this woman's life? The odds are stacked against us. The situation isn't right in this moment. And I've never had the feeling before, but it's always yes, yes. Yeah, I feel it. It's a feeling that I can't walk away from.
Right.
And I didn't know that I wasn't. I felt like this just sounds ridiculous. I thought like maybe I'm the only person that happened to.
No, I think, as you go down your walk with Christ, that's something that in relationships, when things are hard, I think a lot of people go through. Like when me and my wife, when we were first starting off and we both were coming out of that, all the worldly, all the shit, right? Like there was times when we're trying to figure out how to live a better life. And we had been doing things wrong for so long that we would inadvertently do things to hurt each other, right? Like say things, do things. And I remember the same thing. Like I would be just so upset, and I would sit, and it was always something. I was like, okay, like at some point I would. I don't know what to do. Like you get to the point where you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I have nothing left in my ability to make decisions. I have nothing left. So, like I remember sitting at we got into a fight. I had gone for a walk, and I sat at this park for like 3 hours, like just sat at this bench, and I just like. It's just being like trying to be mad, like almost convincing yourself to stay mad. And then at the end of it, I knew I was just like, I asked the guy, I said, all right, like this isn't going anywhere. Like
it's not working. It's not working.
There's my life's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
My relationship keeps just like getting worse, or it'll get better, and then I'll do something stupid, right? Or she'll do something dumb, and then I react stupidly. And the same thing. Like I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Like just
we get
you.
Yeah.
And that's when he showed it to me, and it was like it's just a feeling. And then things got better, and then giving it to him though, it gave me that like. You're doing the right thing. This is where I'm putting you for a reason. Yeah. And like you said, like there's something about having a woman in your life that is a higher caliber too. That like they push you to be better, and but it's so challenging.
Oh yeah, very much so.
That's one of the hardest things, because you're so used to just like, oh, I don't know. For me, I had always to make myself. I think it's probably to make myself feel better. But I would always be with like people that were not as intelligent as me, or maybe I just went after people for the wrong reason.
I mean, sometimes we put ourselves in where we can strive the best at.
Yeah, and so she brought me down to like you're not as smart as you think you are. And like, but it made me so much better in the long run. But in the beginning,
it's tough.
Like,
I mean, for
it's hard.
For people who, I mean, like for you guys, like you said, you guys battled a lot of fighting each other, you got into a lot of fights. I was like almost exact opposite. I'm like, I gotta live my life, and I guess because I had my kid fast, I'm like, I can't lose my kids. You know, so like as I got out of these relationships that I had, at one point I was like, I'm done. Okay, I'm cool. And after the one long relationship I had with the nurse, and she just, I kind of briefly explained to you that last one. I'm like, when you go, I'm not, we were going to counseling. This is the closest one I ever thought for years of I was going to get married to. And I was like, so we did our counseling, and she was like, nope, there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm not ever going to go to counseling again. I'm like, cool. And I just sat there, and I just kind of sat there and prayed about it, and something just clicked. Okay, well, it's time for you to go. She was making all the money, I wasn't making no money, and I kicked her out of my house. I was like, so I started praying. I go, because all these relationships are for a reason. We all go through stuff for a reason. It's us in our relationship with God, to hopefully we can pull those little tidbits off each one. I learned a lot from my dad, even though I never think I ever did. I learned a lot from my mom, for all the stuff that she did do, bringing Christ in my life, keeping Christ in my life constantly. Each one of my brothers, my two brothers and my family, my cousins, I've learned something from them. Hopefully God can be there for you to get those tidbits, those information that you need. From her, I was like, you know what? And it was a lot because I was the saver, I was the fixer in all my relationships. I'm gonna fix it. I'll fix it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but not in a sense. But I'll take all this on, because like my first wife, she thought I was soft because I didn't raise a hand to her. I didn't fight on the street. I didn't do none of that stuff. This one thought she thought she'd just run all over me because the way I respect the kind of sense of a woman a little bit too much, in a sense of let them do what they want. Because in my relationships I guess and I see it all about the women kind of are more. My wife is more of the one that kind of runs things, in a sense, like most men.
There's like the difference between respecting and letting somebody walk on the
right.
line, right?
And a lot of them. So I just I was done with her, and I was like, you know what, God, I'm like, I'm cool. And that was that whole time of being not with nobody, and praying. And I had read a passage that said that pray for what you want. God says you pray and then thou shalt receive. And I did. I prayed. And another gentleman that I was reading at the time, I can't remember his name. It says, pray for the wife you want. And I prayed. So I started. I was like, I get devout, getting back to my kids and me, and which I never really took away from, because if you know me, my kids are my everything. Everything. I've gone broke for them. They never know what rough is. Even though I'm like looking at my bank, my account, I'm like, I don't know this. But they don't know struggle. They don't, because I busted my ass for it. But I prayed for everything. That's one thing I want her smarter than me, to push me when I don't want to do it. Everything has, first thing was she has to love God and have her own relationship with God, and push it, because I'm not going to fix nobody no more, God. You only can do that. And sure enough, because all what I went through, especially with my relationships, especially with my first wife, was constituted why my wife fell in love with me.
You had to learn all that.
Yeah, the reason why Charla knew me, I coached her eldest son. But it's just coaching, especially in Pee Wee football. Yeah. There's 47 other moms there too, also. And the funny thing is that her, and this is God, her cousin knew the brother of my best friend. And they were close. They were close because like best friends.
So that she knew what he.
So she was like, so one day we were on the board and whatnot. We just saying they took pictures and whatnot, and we would say hi. I mean, it was nothing. But that's how PB football is sometimes. Is with these females you gotta watch because some of these females are just out to get some too, and it's a trip. I never seen it as much as I was like, nah.
Coaches?
Yeah. Dude, I guess it's a rampant thing in PB sports. I was like, holy crap, really? I should have done this a long time ago. No, I'm sorry. But she, in that, I don't know where she was talking to her cousin. She goes, oh, you don't know who that is? And she's like, no. Oh, let's talk to Victor, which is his brother. And she like, oh, what kind of, and she still says it every now and it gives me, it's because I've never been the person, oh, you did a great job, you this and this. I hear every now and then, you're a great dad and whatnot, but to feel something like, oh, he did this happened. He broke down my whole story. And I guess him saying that, which coming from that family was like, I don't know, it was heartwarming for me to understand what I look to them, like to them. And that's what it was like her defining point of talking to me, So and then that's just pretty much it. But like as we got together, I go, and she's been through her trauma, she's been through her stuff and whatnot. But she's educated and whatnot. And until I found out that she almost clicked off every check mark as we got to know each other. And I go, but one day I go, do you need me? And she goes, what do you mean? I goes, do you need somebody in your life? Because I don't need you. I like you, but I don't need you. Because I'm not going to fix anything that's wrong with you. And I just need you to be upfront with me that way. And I don't. And to this day, and and as we now, married, a couple years and been together for almost 10 years, that is always in my mind. Even me, I go, I don't want you to need me. That I need to be there. That I need, people need people, and that's how they get into these domestic violences and stuff like this. They have that anxiety they're going to leave, and that codependency. Exactly. I go, I don't need that. I don't want that. And
so you felt like you had to tell her, you wanted to tell her that.
Yeah. I go, I just don't want that, because and as I try to see things, I go, I'm just going to let you know if I feel that in any way, I think we're done.
Well, you want somebody to want you, to choose you.
Yeah, and I want them to have their own life, to have
your guards up.
Yeah. But I'm not like I'm a very personal person. I help when I can.
No, but going through all those different relationships, I'm sure at a certain.
Oh, it was tough, and I don't have a massive body count. I didn't. I kind of, that was my moral compass of, I remember in the beginning when we used to talk, I go, oh, I live vicariously through your single life. And I go, oh, really? That's cool, because I really didn't have a single life. My 20s were married with kids.
Yeah, because you met me when I was still doing drugs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dumb stuff, bruh. Dumb stuff. The stuff you... But
it was worth it.
No, I mean,
you saw. I mean,
but I've
seen me go through.
Yeah, and I've talked you down a couple things that I'm glad you didn't do them, because you probably wouldn't be here, and those little tidbits I take from. Yeah. I go, because maybe the times I talked to you planted this, because the Jason I met, the Jason I remember would have never been doing this.
I mean, you talked me down from, maybe going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I don't know. Yes, that's you to bring up, not me.
I don't know.
It died. Those conversations died as soon as we finished them. But I always pray for you. I pray for you.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Like, now that we talk about it, dude. Like, yeah, it is crazy how many people are a part of those stories, right? Mm-hmm. But the impact that you can have on somebody just from being there and being the voice. Like we talked about with Chris, we talked about one of the pastors we were talking to, and he talked about, like, okay, maybe you don't audibly hear God from God, but his voice comes through other people.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's always angels. They say the angels, it'll be but are we, that spirit of discernment, are our eyes open, our ears listen, ready to listen. You know,
that is based on faith. 'cause
yeah.
Faith
No, I mean, your faith is, but you know, the spirit
is
is.
to believe what you can't see.
Yeah, but are you like? I guess I'm gonna say spiritually, maybe to listen, to hear that, to catch that the first time.
No.
Right, and some people aren't.
No, we weren't.
Yeah, I know. I'm not
It
saying
slapped us across
right,
the face.
exactly, because I go, and that's the point of you're running from God, and you get tripped up. Like I have one that the two of them that run from God, and one is like full on sprint. One of my kids, you know, full on sprint, like no, and he knows.
How do you deal with that as a dad?
It's tough. You try to you pray for them. You know, you try. You know, it's still that tough love, but not so much. You know, you're like, no, you're being dumb. You're being, you know, this is not right. You know, I go, and it's tough because once they get to a point of men and 18, and you really can't say nothing. You know, because even through my kids, I've been through a lot. You know, I've been through, my middle one who's like my mini me being against me, like to this day. You know, it's me and him are like oil and vinegar, or oil and water. Like we just like anything he does, and the fucked up part is my kids are broken, man, because of my relationship with my wife, and it's because of what she did, and not because I've showered them with love, and you see. I think that's the hardest. I mean, you guys. You don't have. I mean, you have your stepson, your stepdaughter, and you have your daughter. But if you don't see it, it doesn't. You don't. Sometimes you don't see it too much. But like with my boys, I see it because they're broken. They see love differently. And I pour into them, and even my stepsons, what I call them, like I said, it's a beautiful thing seeing my dad, and and the way you love Hunter and the way she loves you. I
never thought I could do it, man. But it was crazy how God, she saved me more than anything.
I mean, you could see that relationship. You see how, my older boys, they know, none of them call me dad, and I fought tooth and nail for them, but you see, even I see their brokenness. And
you gotta understand, that's something that. Just hearing you speak about them right now, and you see you tearing up about the whole thing, they're going to see that later on.
Yeah.
They're going to understand that later on.
I guess it's because there's so many of them.
You're outnumbered.
Yeah, but I guess time does kind of lapse because it's it's almost like it's funny how they're like. One mine, one hers, one mine, one hers, one mine, one hers, one mine, one hers. Yeah. And to see them, and they all kind of look towards each other, and they got my eldest, mine's the other. He's the epitome in a sense, like he's the older brother, but he's autistic, and he's not communicative. So they all kind of learn to that. Then
so that affected the other ones.
It affected more my two boys. Mm-hmm. And it helps because, Charlotte's boys, they talk.
So you had 3. Charlotte had how many?
4.
4.
Then we have the baby.
You guys got together, and you have one together.
Yeah, we have the baby.
And you were trying to have a girl.
Yeah,
right?
we wanted a girl.
And you were going to do the in vitro.
We did that, and when it didn't happen.
She was already pregnant. With another boy.
And she had her.
You're just meant to have boys.
Yeah, and it's tough. It is because all my brothers have girls. So and I see those things, and my thing was I gotta keep them busy. Mm-hmm. So that's where the sports comes in. Yeah. And put them in stuff, and put them in, and always having church there, and always have God as the center of a lot of stuff. I falter. I'm not perfect. We get busy, and I go wrestling has thrown a big loop in a lot because a lot of wrestling's the whole weekend. We missed out on some church and stuff like that. And I think I watched your pastor when he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss days." There's times it was that, but sometimes because they didn't have a great background like a lot of my boys, and I wanted them to, and the hard part was that my older boys associated church with their mom. And I had my kids
like you did originally.
Yeah,
almost, right?
almost
walked away from God.
Yeah, they're like that ain't gonna work.
You gotta understand, you're being the dad that you wish you had.
Yeah, and it's tough. Yeah,
here's the thing: the path that you walked is nothing nearly as what your kids are walking now.
Yeah, no.
So to think that you have messed up in anywhere, and the guilt that you're holding on to right now, bro, I'm gonna tell you what, you are through the roof, exceeded every expectation as far as like what you were shown and what they are being shown. The only thing you got to do now is what you're doing: consistency. Continue that. You got to be that rock that doesn't, waver with the wind. Dad's always going to be there. Dad's always going to be there. Dad. And way they mature enough, because each of them are on their own little journey of figuring this out. They're going to find that the one constant thing was you.
Right, and my wife tells me that a lot.
And it's true.
Yeah.
Because you and I know firsthand.
Like I fight, like we fight, like my middle one and my second youngest, in a sense, we're like third or whatever. Where are you flying? The one he's graduating right now. He's graduating. Me and him are like us two is like. I go, why do you treat me like this? Why do you act like this? I just tell you one thing, you're pissed off, or this and this and that, and we get it. Like we get heated. Like me and my middle son, the third oldest, got into a heated fight. I mean, like I remember I get in fights with my dad, and by the time I was a junior, I busted his tooth because he was just getting I go get in the shower, man. You're dirty. Come on, man. I don't want to. I was like, I just want to go back to my room. And I don't want. And my heart breaks for my mom because she's trying to, wash you up. And he swung on me. I picked him up, fucking dumped him in the tub, broke his tooth, busted his tooth out. I'm like, oh shoot. But like my dad knew after like a certain like junior year, it was over with. He can't. He'll just like that's when he's like the knives started coming out, whatever. So like. I was never like that. Like, come on, man, I'm tough. Like, we were like, get your stuff done, get home, homework, this, that, we're going to practice. Homework, this, that's routine. Yeah. Kind of like dads do, in a sense. Like, just trying to keep them, let's go, let's have fun. There was, and he was always my defiant one in the sense out of them three. And we got into it one time. And he said something smart or whatever. And I went to go pop him one in the mouth. And he was like 16, and mind you, all my boys are extremely athletic. Extreme. He was like a little bit more smaller. Like juniors, he's 5'9", now he's 230. But even back then he was like 180, lean 180, smash and stuff. Like and so they were wrestling, so they get a puffed up chest like most kids do, and he. I go, hey man, and he blocked the first one. I popped about get him again. And he looked back and kicked me straight in the chest. And I said, whoop. I snatched him. I picked up on my hand. I threw him to the counter, and almost broke the counter. And I went, and like my martial arts came out, and I said, boom. And the only person I heard was my son, my old dad. I was like, oh shoot. I was like, I just caught him. Look, I just caught him right in I hit him right in the neck. And caught him and I grabbed him. I was about to, and I was like so mad because he hit me. He tried to do that because he just wasn't listening. And I just got up and left. And I was like, and I come back and I'm like, I had to just leave. And Shar, it was actually Shar was there. She was with me. She was living with me at the time. She just come, he's looking for you. I was like, all right. Tears. I don't want that. I don't ever want that to happen. Yeah. That's just it brought me back, That's like I don't ever want to like it's funny how they all kind of like Miguel's with her eldest. He tried to loke up on me and I'm like, and Junior's like, you guys are dumb. Like he'd be talking to me. He goes, they're dumb. I go, why? He goes, I will never fight you. He goes, I go, what? He goes, nope. He goes, you fight dirty. And he goes, I go, it's a fight, mijo. And then I go, I don't see no ref and I don't see no ring. Yeah, there's no system. And that's where my kind of like path, like I couldn't understand and where my guidance came from. Because I did martial arts. Yeah. And when I left the one nurse that decided that there's nothing wrong with her, I started divulging, to martial arts. I did Jeet Kune Do for a little while there, just Bruce Lee style. Bruce Lee, what he created, and did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and one I took into the most is called Soshu. It's a Chinese karate, and I did that for like 10 years. Became a black prep. So, like I said, a lot of I think when it comes back into is your control being a savage, like how you always like what's the savage? You just run there and blind, and you kind of. in your experiences of having, and like a lot of times I just had control. I wanted to, in my mind I wanted to, and I wish I had a short fuse. Like I love watching JJ. He's the one who's graduated. He wanted. There's two of them that are the same age. I love watching him wrestle. He's such an asshole. I just like, because there's always those assholes, but he's like a good one. I mean, he'll wrestle you if you're giving him the stuff. Wrestle. You, as soon as you do something dirty, he's like, oh heck no, it's on. I love watching Jacob. He was the same way, but Jacob was, lazy. He's super smart. That's my second biological oldest, and super smart, loving them. And he just sit there and watching the dude be bigger. They tell him, oh, you gotta go wrestle up this tournament. So all right, he'll sit there and watch the dude. All right, I got it. He'll have to watch you wrestle one time, and that's it. He'll beat you. And you may be beating him the whole time. He'll just do something real quick and get his 2 points, and he's done. And he'll win. And those are things like, I never had a short fuse. My wife gets mad at me because I don't. And I wish I did sometimes.
No, you don't. Trust me.
I know, and I go and save it. But the funny thing is, she has the short fuse. I go, see, God made us perfect.
You gotta have that balance.
I go, I can't do that. Like, it was funny because she gets mad. Like, wrestling is, I don't know if you guys ever wrestled. Did you ever wrestle?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So
then I started working, and then they were like, oh, you can't compete if you don't come to every practice.
Yeah. So, but like for high school wrestling, you're there all day. Mm-hmm. It's from 6 a.m. to 6 at night. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting in the stands and doing stuff like that. And like a couple times I'm like super nice guy. I'm like, hey, come on, move over. And like, she's like, hey, this dude's sitting next to me and he's not supposed to, we walk because we'll go down, film and come back up. They're sitting in our spot. And she's already talking like that with him next to me. I'm like, yes, babe, yes. Like, I remember one time she told me, and she tells me, hey, you gotta tell the guy to move. He goes, he's right there. I go, hey, man. He goes, you need to tell him again. And he has his kid. I'm like, wait, whip his ass with his kid in his hand? And she's like, well, he should know better. He's gonna be moving our stuff and whatnot. I'm like, all right. So she lets me have it. She digs into me. So I don't ever lay those down because I'm not like that. I'm very mild-mannered. You'll see certain times at work that goes click, and I'm like, you need to stop, like right now. Yeah. I'm gonna put you in the wall or something like that.
But people like that, man. So people that have that longer fuse, man. Once it gets to that end, though.
Oh, it's done. Like I can't.
With your son, you said like because he kicked you, right?
Yeah.
Like
that set it off.
No matter what, though, some of that stuff from when you were younger,
it'll come out.
Rubs off.
Yeah.
Right? Like no matter how much you try to make it not, like it does. It rubs off some. And
I try to find like that balance of whatnot. Mm-hmm. That's where my karate came into. Like I love social karate. I love it. I still train. I'm not in a school in a sense, but it was street sense type stuff. It's like karate for the street. Like we would fight each other. There's multiple segment type fighting all the time.
You're not just doing form the whole time.
Yeah, no, we're sitting there we'll be like this, and it'd be okay. You're gonna do this, and we're going through it. So, like, those helped me a lot of control because it got to a point that everybody, when you see people fight, they kind of like, if they're not trained fighters, they get wild. Yeah. And I think that helped me with a lot of what I go through because I try to center myself. We have to learn to center ourselves, and you can't be up. You have to be like, all right, ground your feet, get ready. It's gonna happen. That helped. It helped tremendously.
Well, the more you're in stressful situations, the less you react.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But even then, even though like you said, we try to train, but in all reality, other than like you're going to Kuwait, you're going overseas. It's to have that type of stuff. It's tough to train to really, really get that way. And I come in like you see these Green Berets and these SEALs, Navy SEALs. These dudes are just honed in. Yeah, it's like even then we did some crazy stuff. Like it's I guess it all helped in me, focusing myself.
My grandfather told me one time. He says, if you piss off the nicest guy in the room, you're screwed. Because that's the guy with the longest fuse. And like you said, once it's at the end, there's no other alternative. There's no coming down. It's coming to this. Yeah. And you're going to have to reap the repercussions of whatever he decides to do. Because let's be honest, the most confident of men aren't sitting there opening their mouth, talking crap. sticking their chest out or whatever. They're just quietly confident in that. But there was one point that I wanted to touch on that has to do with a part we kind of like went over briefly, is that for me, for you, and to you to a point, the relationship we have with our women is one of the most pivotal times of elevating ourselves in our life. Mm-hmm. It caused us to go from here to way up here. Definitely. We had to fight every demon that we had ever, brought upon ourselves, everything that we'd ever said and done to be a better man for ourselves, our kids, our wife, whatever the case may be. So that has had a huge impact on me personally, because, and I tell her all the time, even though she didn't like to hear this at first, she was my reason. I didn't have much of a reason to be anything better than what I was because of who I'd been.
What's your reason to get better, right? It's less of I think for you it's been, and for all of us, but I think sometimes they get mad at the reason thing, or she may have.
Yeah.
Because it almost sounds like your reason for everything, right? Or your reason for living and those things.
No.
But my wife, 100%, and I know you have expressed this too, your reason to get better.
Yeah, she was my reason to improve upon myself, to start on a path to be the best road, the best person or man that I can be for her and our kids. And I don't know what I would do without that. It's just been a huge pivotal thing for me. And even now, going through rough times, it's just like that voice that I ask God all the time for. Should I stay? Should I go? What should I do? And he just keeps putting me there. Yeah. And I mean, there's a part of you that wants to be there, but it's just has this, reached this course? And he's like, nope, you're going to stay here and I'm going to show you why. And I'm like, okay. And obviously you want to stay, you want to make things work out, because, that's what you want in your heart and your head.
Right.
But I've never heard that in any relationship in my entire life, ever.
But you have to get to a point too where you can ask it, right?
Oh, I've asked before.
Have you?
Oh, I've asked many times.
I've never but this is the first relationship that I've had where I have been in, that I've known God enough to even ask that question. Yeah. But she's the one that got me there too. Yeah. I've gone back and forth, but my wife now, she brought me full circle. I mean, we did it together. Me, her, and my daughter all got baptized together.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But those two people, my wife and my daughter, they're the reason why I was even in a place to be able to find my way into that. And so, if you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, I think that it's also in ratio the amount of time you spend with those people too. Right. If your wife is not making you better as a man, if she's not pushing you, it's hard to. That's the person you spend the most time with, right?
Oh yeah.
So it would be hard to get better if she.
Oh yeah.
If you find somebody that you thinks you're perfect in every way,
where are you gonna go?
For a little while.
Right. Yeah.
When you're 18, 19, and you want to puff your chest out, have a big ego, that's cool. Yeah. But then, as a man, those are the guys that peak in high school.
Peak in high school, exactly.
And then
I
never get better.
I use that analogy all the time. I go, I did pretty well, but even then I wasn't. I go, I'm nowhere near where I was without my wife. Everything that I have now is because of my wife. Not in the sense that but what we have accomplished together. Yeah. I go, I wouldn't be in the house I am right now. I wouldn't. I guess as men especially you, I was EMT, so I had a decent job. You're a nurse. And how long have you been a nurse?
22 years.
Yeah. How long have you been LVN?
6 years.
So before we met our significant others, as a nurse, that's 20-something, you're pretty much set, bro. Even
unless you get a divorce.
Right. Yeah.
Which I did.
Yeah. So those things you set yourself of where you want to be, where you're going, and sometimes we're already set because we're making pretty decent money, and as men, it's we do get comfortable. Mm-hmm. I think women are always brought there because they're always looking for a little bit of change. You can go in a guy's house and be like, okay, but then women walk in there. It's this. Yeah. It's add this and this and this and that.
When me and my wife met, I had the like I felt like I had the ideal lifestyle for me, right? Like I had a loft downtown, and I had a nice car.
I remember when you got that loft.
And I had like, I finally made it to the point in my head where
you thought you was good.
This much money,
right?
I'll be happy, right? Like I wasn't, and obviously you always want, like people always end up wanting more.
Right.
But in my head, I was like, this is like, I was like, I thought I had made it.
Right.
I was like, this is like,
oh no!
How you gonna raise a family in this this little
hut?
I was like, this is a nice. Look at these windows, and she's like,
no.
She's like, because she brought her daughter, so they had the fires. Mm-hmm. That's when my daughter and her moved in.
Oh, that's right. They keep her up there. Yeah.
We had been dating for long enough to where I was like, okay, well, you guys can come stay with me, and then eventually it turned out that we ended up just living together because they took our relationship to another step.
Right.
But then all of a sudden I have my then girlfriend and her daughter living with me in this loft that's a 1-bedroom loft. It was huge before. All of a sudden she's like, what are we doing? Like, you got like my daughter sleeping on the couch in your living, like, because there wasn't another bedroom.
No.
So then it's like all of a sudden
it's a big playroom.
I got some stuff to do, man. Like all of a sudden I'm like, all right, well, it's back to, and even now, like now it's like we're trying to have another baby, and it's like I'm back in school.
Right.
Like I'm trying to get to the, but without her,
no. You would never
live there for.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I never would have bought a house.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't have found my way back to God the way that I have.
I mean, we're all, the way it's written. Hopefully we don't ignore those signs and those messages, and like you say, we try to do the best we can. Yeah. But even then we still have to do more. Like fasting was a major part. If you ever have kind of like that doubt that's in the back of your head, just fast and dedicate that one thing to God. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna succumb to my fleshly wants and whatnot, and see how much clarity. And that's, I think, the biggest clarity for me has always been is when I fast and pray. And I'm not saying I pray for like hours and whatnot. I fast and I do my prayer right when I start, and I pray this is what I'm gonna pray for, and I continue that on. And believe me, I should be skinny, but God keeps.
Hey, tell by my left eye, I've never fasted.
And that's but those are things you want clarity on, because of discernment. We'll just almost like how you just fix that light. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Well, and now that's exactly what it kind of feels like. And when I said before about should I stay, should I go? In my heart, knowing who I am now, I'm going to stay until something changes.
And that's not being codependent.
It's not being codependent because I want to be here. I need to be here.
Right.
Yeah. But when I ask God, and that's where God comes in, like, God, should I stay here? Should I be in this? Should I continue to fight for this person, relationship, better myself? I'll pray for it at night, and I'm going to give me whatever feeling. I absolutely said this. Whatever I feel tomorrow morning is what I'm going to follow.
Right.
And every day.
Good.
That same feeling comes up. And I'm like, okay. And then I just succumb to it. I'm like, okay, then I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to give this my all. I'm going to stand true within myself.
Right.
And then see how this plays out.
Right.
Yeah, we did fasting a few times for a couple different things. Like we did a Rooted program, which was that's like a Bible study program with a small group, and you kind of go through these different steps, and it's like all the bases of Christianity. It's one of like the first ones we have people do in our church, and we do it in a small group. We do it together, and that was the first time I went through it once, and then me and my wife led one of them, and it was really. Everything kind of gets brought higher. Like you can hear everything, feel everything. Like I never understood it until you do it. Like it's hard to explain, but kind of it's just like that light gets brought up, like you said, like
everything gets heightened,
brighter.
It gets heightened.
You're not distracted with everything else. It's interesting to do being a type 1 diabetic.
I mean, but fasting though, but like in a sense, fasting is not just to come to the food.
I know, it was just
like there's so many different things. Like my church, Thrive Churches, they do it the first of the year. They do a big 40-day fast, and we have to do all of them because you have to
40 days.
40 days.
Wow.
So you're not eating So explain.
So there's different
This is
tasks.
40 minutes and I'm about to clap and
Right.
say we need to take a break.
I just heard his stomach
Right.
scream when
Right.
he said 40 days.
So there's many different fasts. There's a Daniel fast, which is no meats, just fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
There's the typical from sun up to sundown, nothing but water. There's just the liquid fast. So there's many social media fast, TV.
So what's this 40-day fast that you do?
So what they do is to start off the new year, they'd like everybody to get sound, and we pray for, and they have the things we want to pray for. And that's, I mean, we all have to, like I said, be organized in what we want to do, because sometimes if you're not, even just writing down even a couple down things, at least you know you're just not everywhere. You're not always praying for something new. So because a fast is usually directed just to be, a couple things you want to handle like that. But I do multiple fasts all the time. I'm like, I'm a fast today for this.
With
And
this 40-day fast, what are you doing? Like, what do you?
so we do. I did the sun up to sundown, no food. Just this.
So you can eat.
Yeah, you can eat like fruit. So like you look up different types of fasts, and there's one with no sweets. So what, and a lot of times the fast is what I mean, it's different because you're diabetic. So but what are you, something that you're always on? What is something that you're always like? For me, it's food. I can eat. If I take away food, I'm like you said, I'm just like.
I did. Where's my protein? My
Yeah,
gains are
right.
leaving.
I go. No, I'm just like, I'm swelling. I'm like, but those things are like some people can't not be on their phone.
So the fasting, fasting is really difficult, but I think it is worth it.
I think for you it's a different type of fast.
Yeah.
And
I've
for
done it where I just do juice. Like if I go low, I'll do juice. And it's like,
but like I said, look into the different one. Daniel fast is probably perfect. Fruits and vegetables. That's it, all day. That's all you do, and you'll see the difference. You'll feel the difference. Like the cats that lose heck away, but the main part of you where you have to kind of organize is what you're praying for. And that's like for we pray for accountability.
the whole church doing the
They
same
do.
things?
They usually we tell the whole church and this is what we're doing, and they give out
Are
the
you all
thing.
praying for the same things?
Yeah, usually, and then you pray for what you need in your life, in your family.
Yeah.
Because that's
There's something powerful about there's something powerful about a big group of people praying for the same thing, man. Like
it's miraculous.
I mean, they talk about it in the Bible, but you see it, and it makes
It works. Like I've seen like
real things happen.
through my life of seeing miracles. That's what I go. I could never turn away from God for the stuff I've seen. I've seen people, exorcisms and miracles of hearts being put so as a baby. Had a baby who had a hole in his heart, and we prayed and a group of us sang and whatnot. And the next day, there's nothing there. I'm like, nah, there's nothing there. And I was like, and like those things that I could never do that. I go, and that's I think that's the difference in like this church now, like where I grew up. When we grew up seeing stuff right in the middle of church, healing, like no matter what, is all about it. And that's I don't know if because maybe church is not like that no more. For me, I grew up old school. It's tough. You just got to go in there for God, and you get scared if people start speaking in tongues, and I grew up in that. So I speak in tongues when the worship falls and the presence is there. I speak in tongues and whatnot, and and then there's a person that can decipher that stuff because that's the holy language. That's only God knows that. So you have to be prepared for what you want to do and all that, and those things help. The fasting and this and that. I think we all have our own disciplines. I'm very undisciplined in a lot of things, and I'm not. I'm first to say I'm not perfect. I'm not. I fall every day.
But that's the point of being on this road.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here not to speak out of turn or to tell people we're perfect and this is not to be like us. We're here to talk to guys like you and other men that have found their way through the tough things with God, found their way back to God, like we'd have that are experts in specific things too, and go down this journey and learn more. And hopefully somebody out there can watch and maybe it takes a few steps off of their journey, right? we're not here to say that we're perfect at all.
No, in no way.
Oh no, I think this is great what you do, because a lot of people don't, like you say, you never thought anybody was like you.
Yeah.
And as far as that put it, a lot of people think that way.
No, and we do, and this is it's a testament to show like that. And one, we're not like nobody out here is perfect, and two, that you can get better, and we're gonna try to do that. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Being so open about stuff.
Yeah.
Taking
Anytime,
time away
anytime.
from your giant family, and man, we will have to have you back on to talk more about the kids as they grow up.
For sure,
and all the
for
boys.
sure.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much.
No, I'm honored.
It was great.
I'm honored, and I thank you. I thank you for you being two men of stepping out on your faith and doing something like that for people out here that sometimes they just need somebody in this world of podcasting and YouTube and all that. They sometimes they just sit there and, oh man, there's somebody like me.
Well,
So,
hey, you're doing a great job being a dad, dude.
no,
Keep it
thank
up,
you. I
man.
appreciate it.
Seriously,
Appreciate it.
seriously.
Many blessings. Many blessings.
All right, well,
Till next time,
be savage.
be a servant.